Alright guys, I want to thank you all for being patient as I haven't uploaded in a couple of days. Just kind of taking a little bit of a breather on YouTube. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video though. Hit that thumbs up and subscribe. This video will be a little bit formatted differently, so you guys will kind of see that as we go. But we're giving full yellow. This could end very badly. We are giving Perfect Cell a 5 times Zenkai buff. So I want to see 5 times as many likes on this video if possible. This would typically work a lot better if he was a damage dealer. He is a support character, but he can do some damage if you start popping off with blasts. Also, I did give him this regen equip, which will help him do more damage alongside those other regen characters on the team. And if you want to just kind of look at the stats, just cause he's missing out on the Z ability for 18 because she's no longer in my leader slot because I made a change after the first match. But we do have 40 and 35 from Piccolo, 40 and 35 from 18, 40 and 35 from Demon King Piccolo, Frieza here because he's a powerful opponent, and then Goku Black. Speaking of Goku Black, people have been asking me to revisit that guy. Is that something you were interested in? Let me know down below. Let me know down below. If the video gets 125 comments, we'll come back and do the Goku Black video. So just post, yeah, do the video. All right, here we go, guys. So first things first, I hadn't played Legends PvP in 5 days, so I'm going to be worse than normal in this video. And this match, and I think the next match, do have a little bit of lag. Cell, we're going to talk about him. He is a support-based, mainly a blast-based support, but he is a support character. So obviously being a free support character, you can imagine his stats are not that great, and it is what it is. So Cell is a character that I think is interestingly designed, but he does have, off the top of my head anyway, correct me if I'm mistaken, some decent competition among his teams, which obviously is going to hold him back. Even among like event exclusives, I believe there are some decent yellow options. Well, obviously there's the Trunks there too, right? So the blast card restores his ki by 10. That's very good on characters that get cards, stuff like that. Even if they don't get cards, I guess. Cell doesn't really get many cards, but it's still good to have. He has the major modifier on blue cards, and I really wish they would just stop doing that to free characters because they're already lowering their stats, things like that. Just give them the stronger blue cards. You might as well. Anyways, he randomly destroys 2 cards and hit. That's a good effect. Also, his green draws a blast card next while restoring 40 ki and inflicting the enemy he's versus with a 35% blast damage received debuff. So he draws a blast, gets a lot of ki. It only costs 15 ki to use it, so nice. And then he does a debuff as well. So obviously if they're immune to the debuffs, that's going to stop that. However, if they have immunities, he can take that off. It's a part of this main ability. I personally only draw this main ability if I'm looking for the blue card or to heal. But he draws a blue, gets enough ki to use it, restores everybody's health by 10%, and then cancels enemies' attribute upgrades. That's going to be like their damage increases that they get that are cancelable, things like that. And then buff effects, which is going to be their immunities to paralysis or feints or whatever, their immunities to conditions, basically. He takes off the immunity, right? So maybe they were a character that couldn't actually pick up any debuffs. Well, he could take that off, right? And they will, from there, start picking up debuffs. Crazy effect whenever it's on characters. It's not very common at all, but when it is, it's crazy, man. Because these characters can start picking up poison, paralysis, feint. All these things they're probably immune to in most cases. So here's how things look for him. When the battle starts, he gives all allies a 20% blast damage increase. So that's always active. Very reminiscent of characters that came out a long time ago, like Red Hercule or LF Frieza, the purple one, giving that passive support that's always active. So that's very powerful. And then also he gives them 30% ki recovery. Now this one is only for 60 counts. And then he gives them a regeneration effect. So you may notice my Android 18 is healing. That's because it actually just fell off. For the first 60 counts, every character on your team will get that regeneration effect to keep healing. So that, blast damage and ki recovery. Also, when he enters the battlefield, he gets 75% damage. Can't be canceled or cut or stacked. And then he gets 55% cut. These numbers are so high because they're trying to offset the lower stats that he has. So that's good, I guess. But just why not just give him 10 to 15K on the offensive numbers so you don't have to do this, right? So it is what it is, though. We go ahead and take a look down here. Plus 30% damage inflicted for 15 counts every time he uses a blast dart. That is where most of his damage comes from. If Cell, the optimal scenario for Cell as a damage dealer, which he really isn't, but his optimal scenario is to get a combo going with ideally a full blast in, and then having a green in hand as well. And that last couple of blast cards will really do a good amount of damage because that 30% will consistently stack, and obviously at higher star levels, and in my case a 5 times, like something like right now actually, a 5 times buff, you see the damage starts really piling in, and he can really get going, especially if he has that debuff from the green. which he should be able to have, especially if you save the main ability. Like, that's where Cell is at his absolute peak offensively, but he's not a damage dealer, if you will. So the cool thing about Cell as well, too, is that he shortens his own sub count by 2 by default. So he will be able to switch in a lot quicker than most characters. Not a very common effect. Anytime you can switch in faster, that's incredible to have on any character, though. Applies the following effects to the enemy when this character switches out to standby. He does more debuffs. Plus 20% blast damage received, and then does a plus 5 to the strike art's cost. So you see, this is why Cell needed the effect to remove the immunities, basically, because he's doing all these debuffs. Also, Cell has a shortens own sub count by 5 when the enemy activates Rising Rush. We're starting to see this type of mechanic pop up a little more. Ironically, it's mostly on yellow characters. And then we have Gogeta Blue, who does it for allies. Anyways, not Gogeta Blue, but Blue Gogeta. Anyways. So that's obviously a really good effect when you can throw him out there into a Rising Rush. And we have yet another yellow character. This has always been the case. It's always mainly yellows. Literally, even going back to, like, I think, like, EX Android 16. There's some old yellows that do this. Another yellow character that has defeated effects / buffs. I said effects because Tapion is also in the same mold, but he doesn't actually literally do buffs. But plus 20% damage inflicted for allies when this character is defeated, plus 30% to allies' key recovery. These are non-cancelable as well. He also gives that regeneration effect again for another 60 counts and seals the enemy strikes for 7 counts. So I'm going to play the next match and just kind of give you a summary on my opinion on Cell. So in this match, I tried to play a little bit too cute, by the way, playing around UI. Still hadn't figured out my groove. So like I said, it had been a while, so a little rusty. And that's going to really pop up in this match, I believe. So anyways, I'm doing a drop combo there. Probably didn't need to, you know, just it is what it is. Anyways, so my opinion on Cell is as follows. I think that Cell is actually really interesting and really interestingly designed. I'm really liking, I said it in a previous video, I really like the kits that they're putting out for these characters of late. Even trying to go back to the anniversary and the characters they put out, most of the new Sparkings, even the Vegeta, even though he's not, you know, regarded highly, were experimental or had experimental effects, you know, where they're doing new things that we hadn't really seen a ton of. Now, Cell isn't of that same mold. Oh my goodness, the blast damage. He's not really of that same mold to the same degree, but he has a conjunction of powerful effects built in. I mean, if we recap, the sub count down by default of 2, it's not a lot, but it matters, right? It matters. Also, the Rising Rush sub count default are down. Very powerful effect, right? You can throw him out there if you need to. Also, he has defeated effects that activate as well, so he's going to be healing allies, giving damage and key recovery. Very powerful stuff to give, and they're non-cancelable. If you notice, he was doing more blast-based stuff, but in that situation, if he is defeated, he just gives general damage, which is incredible. That is best-case scenario as opposed to just blast, right? Also, Cell has his own stuff that kind of procs off with respectable numbers that he gets, even though the stats are kind of low of 75 and 55. But also Cell does have the extra, if he pops off anyway, with the blast card damage like we saw at the end of the last match. That was a Zenkai buffed LF androids, but they were low stars. So like, still nonetheless though, still cool to see Cell, you know, popping off like that because he's a free character and he's like 10 times worse than them, right? But Cell also has the main ability that's going to be canceling attribute upgrades and the buff effect. So like, this guy has a lot of powerful stuff. So I do think that he's worth owning. I do think that he's a character that is valuable to a degree, especially if you don't have some of the other characters that are going to be on these teams that may give him competition that are, you know, better or whatever the case is. However, Goresh put out a tweet last night, and I don't know if it's to this. I don't know if I agree 100% to that extent, but the idea is the same, and the idea was that the free characters have to get to a point where they're about as good as the LFs were, you know, a year ago. And the LFs about a year ago is right about where they stopped being not as great. I mean, around like around this time, I mean, we just got off the anniversary. I don't know who the direct one was right after the anniversary, but like the LFs that are about a year old are not anything crazy, I guess, right? It kind of just depends who you're talking about. So I don't know if I'm to that extent, but the free characters have to be really good. They have to be really good if they're going to get there. And the thing about this guy is I think his kit, like I mentioned, is actually really good. he's got a very lengthy kit, and typically that translates to being good in the game. I think that what they're doing though is hamstringing him though with the color, like I mentioned, and the teams and stuff like that, and then also the stats, and then also being a support type, because even summonable support types can't escape the fate of stats on support type characters, right? So I think that's really where he gets hamstrung. But I think that in the future, if they decide to produce like powerful opponent with Kid Buu or something like that, or a very strong damage carry, blast carry, like really Kid Buu isn't even really what I'm talking about, but he is an example. But a blast character that fits in powerful opponent, that also has good color synergy, being like a blue or a green with Cell, whatever the case is, a character that has good color synergy and can really take full effect of all the supporting things Cell does, and because he also supports via debuffs. So that type of character, I think, could really add more relevance to Cell. I think Cell is the type of character that, again, I don't want to hark on too much on the stats, but especially if he was a summonable character, he might be the type that gets a little underrated and then gets praised later on. You know, that type of character when a spot really opens up for him in the meta. But unfortunately, as he is currently with the characters at his disposal currently, I don't really foresee Cell, you know, making that jump, unfortunately. So we didn't get the craziest matches because I haven't ranked up. Like I said, I haven't played in 5 days, dude. Seriously. So this guy isn't bad though. But yeah, I do like how he's built. I love everything about the character, the way that they made him. I really do like when they try to, like I said, be creative, or they're giving all these effects and stuff like that. And this guy has some of the best stuff in his kit. Some of the best stuff in the game in his kit. You know, he's just missing the extreme high-end stuff like Endurance, Revive, Nullify covers, but he has most of everything else. So like typically that would translate, like I said. So anyways, so far, if you've been obviously paying attention to the footage, a couple of things have happened. We've gotten Cell in a couple of situations as an offensive character. We've been getting Cell as a support character all game, because that's just something that's going to naturally happen with the way he's built. Take off the buffs and stuff there, nice. With the way he's built, that's just going to happen, right? All the debuffs on Gogeta now are mainly a courtesy of Cell. So things like that. The debuffs, the support, extra damage, stuff you can't really see, whatever. The key recovery. So, like, that's been the case. But also, in this match, I don't think we got in the last couple. In this match, we're actually going to get Cell as a defeated character, because I'm really rusty and swipe happy in this match. So Cell's going to drop in here. Gogeta's going to blow him up. Now, my primary objective for the rest of this match is to keep LF Piccolo. I deemed LF Piccolo as the character I wanted to have as my last man, because I thought that the bulk on him, he would be fine, right? King Piccolo is a little too squishy for this. Now, King Piccolo could be a good character. King Piccolo was very useful in the last match. If you didn't, I didn't really comment on it, but his effect to nullify Endurance, I believe he got 2 Endurance characters last match. Very powerful stuff. But I want to keep Piccolo alive. Now, Piccolo does have all that stuff still from Cell, basically. So Piccolo is picking up the regen, which I believe he already had by default. But nonetheless, though, he's going to be in a great position here. Watching the rush. No rush, okay. I've got the regen, he's got the bleed. Kind of funny to see that. I have a rush here now because he's not expecting this. Yeah, if he did that, like, before the green, if he did that blue immediately, he would have got priority here, and he would have canceled out my rush. But the green allowed us to clash on it, which means that I win. So I win this sequence, right? But if he went straight into that blue, he would have gotten it. He would have canceled my rush. I would have clicked the strike at the last second, though, to stop that from happening. I do that all the time. But otherwise, he would have got me. Okay, so this I thought was kind of weird. I think it's right here. No, it's not here yet. Okay. Well, right now we're going to just try to throw Piccolo in. That's a window to do so. Now I need to stall as much as I can to get the opportunity to go back to King Piccolo. Try to get a sidestep. He didn't go for it. Still just drifting out. That's tackle bait. I'm not going for the tackle. See how he stopped at mid-range? That was tackle bait. I do that all the time too, but I got him here with my tackle bait. Yeah, I do that all the time where you drift back and then you stop with the stop clock, and if they bite on it and they go for a tackle trying to get you because they see you drifting out from mid, you could just strike them, right? See, I basically did the exact same thing back then. I countered it. But yeah, we get him there. Unfortunately, because this guy took off my buffs, I didn't have enough damage. And Piccolo's not even the best damaging character anyway. I thought he'd tackle there, he didn't. So this I thought was kind of curious. King Piccolo is fine, but I think regular Piccolo is a better character. outside of that endurance effect anyway. But I think regular Piccolo is especially a better character for this match. Especially because one of his characters he has is disadvantaged anyway, and Vegito already drew his main, and he's not going to be able to keep up in this match. So Bardock, if he loses Bardock, this match is effectively over because he has no rush, he has no main on Vegito. I thought that was kind of weird because I think the bulkier character that's harder to kill is the one you need to get rid of, right? So anyways, here we go. Goodbye. Notice Piccolo is still healing, by the way, and look how little damage Piccolo's taking there. He dropped for some reason. So yeah, in that one we got to see Piccolo pop off a little bit, and really the Piccolos have kind of carried the last couple of matches. I used 18 in the first match, and she was in my leader slot, but then I was like, no, I'm gonna actually cycle 18 off so I can give Cell that equip to do more damage if he has, you know, regen allies. So that's kind of what it all kind of devolved into. So let me know your thoughts about Cell. Is he a character you think is particularly good? Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the character. I love Gohan though. I'm not a huge fan of Cell, but I am a fan of the way they designed him, and I'm a fan of these types of characters in general. Like, I really love characters that aren't all just damage and offense, you know, that can bring multiple things to the table, and Cell does that. He does a lot of stuff. Like I mentioned, very lengthy passives. It's unfortunate, those stats. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Click on one of the videos on the screen, and I'll catch all of you in the next one.